Hello, everyone. Welcome to King Po Myers, and this is a very unique episode because it is a Christmas special in January. Because why not? And with us is our very special guest, Sam So Spooky. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So, Sam, you did something very, very crazy, in my opinion, in December. You did 25 days of Christmas horror, did you not?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. My
And
phone is now.
I mean, I saw your original post, and I'm like, oh, good lord! Like I thought these movies she's already seen. No, you spent your Christmas of 2020 watching Christmas horror.
Yep, that's how I spent 2020.
Um, I know we're gonna go into a couple movies in a few minutes, but what was your overall take after you finished and you were like, okay, I just watched all those horror movies?
That was pretty much my take was, oh my God, my brain is mush now. Although I was starting to think that before I finished, but at the end of it, I was like, I can't believe I accomplished that. That was pretty fucking rad of me to have done that. To like I made a goal, I completed it, and then I was just like, I don't ever want to watch a Christmas horror movie again for another year.
But if it's not another 2 years or never again, it's till next year. Next year. Did any of them surprise you?
Yeah, no, there was definitely plenty of surprises.
Yeah. All right. So just for our viewers to know, originally I had intended to watch these movies, but because of personal things, I really couldn't handle them. I think that's the best way to put it. Because I watched the beginnings of a few of them, and yeah.
And I sat through all of them. There was only one on my entire list that I didn't sit entirely through, but I skimmed the rest of it so that I still made it to the ending. But I wanted so badly to turn it off, but I was like, I have to no, I have to stick it out for the people.
You're doing this for the people. That's so sweet of you. Um. All right.
Yeah, I did you all a solid. I took 25 for the team.
And the team's just sitting there like, why? Like, give up. It's okay.
Why not? I was inspired actually by Halloween Happy. That's another girl actually named Sam on Instagram, and she did 100 days of Halloween Happy, where we posted 100 days of Halloween stuff, and I had participated in that. Those posts are on my Instagram, Sam So Spooky. But when it rolled around closer to Christmas, I liked that structure of having something to post every day, and I wanted to continue kind of having a theme going. So that's why I did Happy Horror Days, 25 days of Christmas horror movies.
I'm amazed you got through it because you watched, spoiler alert, you watch some shit tier movies. Like, this is what people, when people say they hate horror, they think about movies like these. Just awful directing, awful effects, awful story, awful dialogue. Every character is a pervert. It's like, what? Why do you do this to the genre I love?
Yeah, I basically dug through the rubble to pull out the diamonds for y'all. I sat through all the shitty movies, and that's, you know what, I feel like that really encompasses how the horror genre is, because it's so subjective to what people fear and what they're afraid of and all those sorts of things. But basically it's like you have one or two really good movies and then the rest of them just fall off from there. So I went through all of that so I could bring to you the two good movies.
All right, let's God,
Let's get into it. Yeah.
let's start this. What is the first movie you have for us? Like, give us a synopsis of the overall story, and just so for our wonderful viewers, This is spoiler, all the spoilers. Sam's gonna talk about deaths and characters and just when she saw the boom mic and the director, and she's just gonna
Yeah.
spoilers. So if you
Yeah, there's some
actually,
things that we have to talk about.
what's our first one?
So are you talking about the very first one I watched, or like just like the first one I want to talk about?
First one you want to talk about?
Let's talk about Elves, because I know you're dying to talk about Elves,
Okay,
1989.
yeah, I got 20 minutes through, and I just, yeah. Okay, let's talk about elves. Let's.
All right. Do you want me to give a quick synopsis?
Please do,
Okay, so for
if you
anyone,
can.
um, first of all, if you want to watch Elves, it's on YouTube, which that already tells you most of what you need to know is the fact that it's available on YouTube.
Glaring warning sign.
Yeah, it was made in 1989. It's misleading because it's called Elves, but it's really just one elf, and it basically involves elf, Nazis, and incest, and bringing on the Fourth Reich. Yeah, and you're like, wait, what? That was a Christmas movie? Yeah, yeah. It happens at Christmas time, and it's got Dan Haggerty from Grizzly Adams, right? Yeah, he was like the famous Grizzly guy. He alone is worth watching that movie for, just to hear Dan Haggerty say, "Tell me about the connection between the Nazis and the elves."
I would just the disgust on my face and how I'm feeling right now. Yes, yeah, yes. Nazis and incest and Christmas and elves. Elf. Oh my.
Yeah, elf, because they couldn't afford to animate them. It was like one, like I want to say suit. I don't think there was anyone in it, and like the elf, he moves terribly because they can't move his limbs. It would basically be like if you had like a plastic toy Godzilla, right? But like this creepy elf. So like you see them trying to like shuffle it to make it look like it's moving, and then also its face never changes. Its mouth is like always open, and it looks terrible. And
All right. I have to be mean right now. Tell me a scene, a character, a concept, something that you liked.
about that film,
Yes. Or is there nothing?
well, I mean, there's the line Dan Haggerty says. How can I forget that? There's also another really great line where the little brother to the main girl character is like, "Is everything gonna be okay?" And then the girl says, "No, Willie, Granddad's a Nazi." And also, just I don't know, something about Dan Haggerty's character I liked. The sheer ridiculousness of the movie I kind of liked, but also it was so ridiculous and gross and uncomfortable. And yes, you know what? It the whole premise is that the father was a Nazi who fucked his daughter in order to create a pure bloodline so that they could breed with the elves and make a master race, essentially bringing on the Fourth Reich. And this comes down to his granddaughter, who's supposed to be like a pure form of the bloodline, who's virgin, and that she's meant to be fucked by this elf. And they don't show it, but at the end of the movie, they imply that she did, in fact, fuck the elf and get impregnated.
With like the guys like moving the legs and the arms because
Mhm.
they don't have the budget for oh that's
No, they don't show it. They don't show it. They show the elf sliding his hand up her leg because she fell and she can't move, and but they don't show anything else beyond that. And then finally, when the movie ends and it starts to roll the credits, they show like a brief picture of like a baby in a womb, implying that she got pregnant. So then you're like, oh, oh, gross. Yeah.
Sam.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas indeed, because that's what a lot of American, well, just films in general do. Like whenever you need a bad guy, the Nazis were behind it. Just why not? Like
And Dan Haggerty, Grizzly Adams, is there to save the day.
I
I can't
just
let it go. I can't let that go. There's even a moment in the film where they're walking through the mall and he walks past a giant stuffed bear and he takes a quick look at it like he knows it and then keeps walking. They did that on purpose. But this is essentially why I ended almost all of my Christmas posts I made for Happy Horror Days with Merry Christmas Creeps, because we are all fucking creeps if this is what we're sitting down and watching.
I don't believe it should be watched. I think YouTube should strike that shit. Come on, YouTube.
Leave
You
it there
know
forever. Leave
you
it there forever.
Sam, if I gave you a budget and I gave you a great writer, a great director, is there could you salvage any of this movie and do a remake? Is there anything redeemable about it?
No. I mean, and here's the other thing too, is if I tried to remake that movie today, that's not gonna fly. No one's gonna want incest and Nazis, especially in today's PC culture. And
I
it's
think Elves is just what the people of 2021 need.
yeah.
Did and was this the one that you skipped to the end, or did?
No, that was actually Red Christmas, which was
Mm-hmm.
made in 2016. It is an Australian horror film, which it has I forget her name, Dee Wallace, who's amazing. She's been in so many other horror movies. You might know her from like Cujo. She was
Oh,
even in
okay.
one of the Halloween movies.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, it's gonna be good because that's Dee Wallace. No, you
No.
know what? Here's the thing, Australia. I'm sorry, not sorry, but every Australian horror film I have ever seen, I hate with a fervent passion, and this was no exception. I wanted to skip through Red Christmas. I wanted to stop watching it so bad. And that's why I was just like, I'm gonna skim it, see if there's anything worth interesting. And guess what? I'll save you the time. I'm gonna save you so much time. Everyone fucking dies. At the end of the film, there's not a single alive character except for maybe the baby. But the baby is the only one alive, so with no one to take care of it, of course it's gonna die. So everybody dies.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Give us a little synopsis. Like, how did we get to everyone dying in a Christmas horror?
Stupid decisions.
Stupid decisions.
Yeah. Okay, but the premise of the movie, interesting enough, it deals a lot with abortion. And
Just
yeah,
what you want for a Christmas movie.
um which I want to go more into that in a second. But basically, like, the premise is there's this family, they're kind of dysfunctional, they're trying to celebrate Christmas. Many years ago the mom had had an abortion and she thought that the baby had like been killed when that happened, right? Well, it
Mm-hmm.
turns out that the father was this crazy man who, like, he thought abortion was so wrong and he stole the baby and, like, it never died and he raised it. And the baby had, like, all these defects, like, uh, Down syndrome. It was a leper. Like, it had, like, lots of problems. And he raised it. And this baby, when the dad finally dies, goes searching for its mom and finds her and tries to become a part of her family and get to know her, and like immediately gets thrown out. And when that happens, he decides, okay, well, I'm going to murder everyone you love and you. And it's amazing because, like, for someone who has so many problems and is basically physically ill, he has like superhuman strength, which is not explained. And like starts killing them off in the wildest ways. And then they're like, oh, like they keep making stupid decisions to try and not get killed by him, which leads to them constantly separating and getting killed until eventually, like, the mom, in order to kill him, also kills herself. And you're like, what just happened? What the fuck? I hate this movie. I hate this movie.
More than
And I'm not
elves.
the only one. I'm not the only one. I looked it up after because I was like, is there something wrong with me? Should there have been something I liked about this film? No. There's even like a whole, I think, a documentary or like a side thing that talks about how this was like one of the worst or hardest films to make. Like the process of making it was awful, and it
Mm-hmm.
resulted in this awful film. So Australia, please, please, do better. I don't know. Maybe it's because like a lot of Australian culture I just don't understand. But yeah, I hated Red Christmas. That was my least favorite movie on my list. The only one I skipped through.
Over Elves.
Over Elves,
Wow.
over Elves. And if you watch it, you will all see for yourself. But I beg you, don't rent it. Don't watch it. It's not worth your time. I'm saving you. This is me reaching out a hand with a life raft and fucking saving you.
Um, was there anything redeemable?
No,
A line, like something like funny or
no,
stupid, a character, a
no,
concept? Nothing.
no. None of the lines, none of the characters, none of the like the character development of which there was none. None of the even cinematically it was awful, like the way the director chose to do like these oversaturated colored lighting and these low running shots that either you're like, why are you running slow just so he can film you running? Like it, no, there's nothing.
So, if I gave you a budget, a director,
No,
the greatest writer
nothing
of all time, there's
nothing
nothing.
can fly. No, it's stupid. No.
Okay, so what we
If I was
learned.
a horror movie, I am going my completely own way.
So what we've learned today is Australia, get your shit together.
Yes, which I talked about the fact that the movie touches on abortion, and so from here I want to segue into uh, something else, which is that so I watched 25 Christmas horror movies, right? And
Yes.
I purposely set my list up so that I moved from uh, the oldest movie to the most recent. So my movies span from 1974 till 2019,
Okay.
and um, I did my best to kind of look at them and see, did anything evolve over time? Was there any patterns that kind of formed throughout Christmas horror? Um, but to be fair, before I talk about the patterns, I have to talk about what is subjective about my list, because over 75% of my list is American movies. There's only a few that were Christmas horror from another country. So 75% is America, which makes sense because Christianity is predominant in America, where also, therefore, Christmas is predominant in America. It's a big thing here, even
Mm-hmm.
capitalistically, commercially. So 75% of my list is American. Of my entire list, only 22 to 29% involved female killers. So basically, everyone's man.
Mm-hmm.
I There were many times where Mark, my boyfriend, walked out while I was watching this, and I would just look at him and say, "I hate men." In the middle of my binging all these movies, just "I hate men," and he goes, "I know," and he would just go in the other room. So only 22 to 29% female killers. Only 20% were creature killers, which I have to note that of all the creature films, all the creatures were also male. There were no female creatures. Unless you want to count zombie hordes, where there were some females in the horde somewhere, but like, I don't consider that. And then last but not least, only 2 female directed films out of all of these. And the shitty part is it wasn't even like they directed the whole film. They were always partnered with a man on that film. So out of 25 Christmas horror movies, there's only 2 female directors, but they did it alongside a male partner. So that's the subjective part of my list.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I want to talk about is in terms of evolving over time, most of these horror movies were in the 80s and most especially the last 15 years. Most Christmas horror movies were made in the last 15 years, which is kind of shocking and interesting. Um, and if I noticed anything kind of evolving over time, it was the focus of a lot of these movies started shifting to like the idea of the war on Christmas and putting Christ back in Christmas. Like there's a
Christ
lot,
back in Christmas. Yeah.
yeah, putting the Christ back in Christmas becomes kind of more prominent in a lot of these latter half years. and basically there's a lot to go alongside that too. Because I mean, the war on Christmas actually has been going on for a really long time. Like back in the 17th century, a lot of it was banned because like it didn't fit with what the interpretation of the Bible was. You have your favorite Krampus and early depictions of Krampus with Santa Claus. And what's
Mm.
interesting is Santa, a lot of his early depictions were of him as like a pope or clergy member. Even today in like Amsterdam, you have Saint Nicholas is still a big thing. So he's dressed as like a pope. Um, and so it kind of went on par with Santa and Krampus were basically like imagery of almost Jesus and the devil in the Bible. That's kind of how they were viewed.
Yeah.
And so even as Santa's image evolved over time, and like in 1930s or so, when Coca-Cola made him like a big image for their brand, and now you have
Yep.
Santa in the red suit. And either way, Santa was still on par with Jesus. Santa is up here with his goodness, his almightiness, and this is why a lot of no offense to anybody here, but a lot of Christian people get upset with Christmas horror movies because you're tainting the image of Santa by making him evil, and he's such a godly, goodly figure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as things evolve over time, it's a lot of putting the religion back into Christmas, and things are changing. And there's even 2 movies on my list that specifically say the words "War on Christmas," which is Krampus.
No.
Yeah, Krampus, your favorite movie, Krampus.
Mm.
On the news broadcast, the lady says, "Is this a war on Christmas?" And in A Christmas Horror Story 2015, the daughter in the car says, "It's the war on Christmas." And then another one is Santa Sleigh in 2005. The idea behind that movie is that like Santa was an immaculate conception, just like Jesus, only he was born of the devil. And
What?
uh, yeah, so again, we have the whole Bible kind of coming in, and then there's a lady in the film who, when she's leaving the butcher shop, the guy says, or maybe it was an ice cream or butcher shop. The guy behind the counter says "Happy Holidays," and she gets upset with him, and she tells him it's "Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays." Like she gets really upset and telling him that she doesn't say that shit, which I experienced myself when I was working in a grocery store. I had a lot of people get upset with me for saying "Happy Holidays," and they'd be like, "It's Merry Christmas." I'm like, "I'm just trying to be nice."
Just yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of that. And then even in the Christmas Horror Story one too, aside from mentioning the war on Christmas, one of the tales, because it's an anthology film, one of the tales in the film involved abortion. So again, we're talking about abortion. The tale also involved like those kids going down into the basement of the school, and they come across a nativity scene, and they start talking about how like, oh, we can't put the nativity scene out anymore because it's not allowed or expensive, and they start going into that conversation. So yeah, a lot of the latter half of these last 15 years, these Christmas films really start to put a little bit more focus on it. And I was wondering if it had anything to do with what was going on in reality, which, if anyone
Yeah.
remembers the 2015 Starbucks cup debacle,
Oh,
that
stupid
kind of
cup.
brought that a little bit more to light. That's where a lot of people first started hearing the term war on Christmas.
And a lot of like you're saying, like that this past decade was really, the conservative media really amping it up, like the cup thing, like, oh Jesus, it's just
Yeah. And it wasn't even like a decorative cup. The
no.
original cup in question was a red and white cup. And people got upset. In
Offended
particular,
deeply.
yeah, it was one particular man. This was 2015. Christian evangelist Joshua Feuerstein. I don't know if I said his last name right. Followed by a comment on Donald Trump himself, which those things being said by them, and then also it got mentioned in Fox News. Um, Basically, they're saying that it was like liberal antagonism towards the holiday, and that we were declaring a war on Christmas because we were taking Christ and religion out of Christmas. But that wasn't happening with the Starbucks cups at all. And if
Listen,
you're wondering, no, it did not affect Starbucks sales.
yeah, to all
Because
you
yeah,
to all you loyal customers out there of all stores, when you say, "Well, I'm going to take my business elsewhere," the board of directors does not care.
yeah. Also, Starbucks core value system is they always like center it around the idea of diversity.
Yeah,
So, I mean, a lot more people were for that than were upset about it.
yeah.
But yeah, that's what I kind of took note of in the evolution of horror movies, if there is any. Otherwise, my list is kind of all over the place in terms of what each film was about. Um, I did try to see if I could find any more analysis on Christmas horror, which it's really hard to research because so many people just talk about a specific movie they watched versus all of them together as a whole. Like, there's one thing to talk about horror films or the horror genre or slasher films, like a specific brand within it. Christmas horror is not so much talked about. It's not a thing.
Well, Sam, I mean, you have to admit you are very unique in the sense that you actually sat down and watched all these goddamn movies. I mean,
I
it's
took
also like for casual fans, I think it's also a really tough sell. Like it's Christmas, you want to be happy, you don't want to be watching Nazis and elves and incest. Oh my! I mean,
yeah, they just spent Halloween watching all the horror films. They wanted
exactly.
Christmas bouncing back. Understandably. I, however, am fucked up. So I was like, bring on the trauma. I watched 25 Christmas horror films back to back to end 2020. I'm glad you mentioned the idea of wanting it to be good because I did find this couple guys who talked about it in brief articles. Which one of them was Levi Jacobson reviews, and he mentioned how Christmas horror is different from like Halloween horror because it's a distortion of purity. That's a direct
Hmm.
quote. And then a couple other quotes I wrote down were contorting the innocent into something frightening. And what Christmas horror does is it strips the wolf of its sheep clothing to reveal a darker truth, the Krampus inside the claws. So again,
Oh, that's good. That's
yeah,
good.
I knew you'd like that.
That's
It's
good.
basically like you were saying, it's you don't expect anything bad to happen at Christmas. It has like a holiday season of joy and warmth and merriment and presents and happiness. It's not you don't expect horror and tragedy and people to get murdered. And this is even more exemplified in James Cullen of Film Magazine's quote, which is, "We see the darkness of a horror film. We know what to expect. But when we see the twinkly lights of a tree added to this, our minds are tricked. Nothing bad could possibly happen at Christmas, could it? The semiotics condition us to be wary at a time we wouldn't normally expect to be wary." So, because if you go into a haunted house, and this is what he also says in the article is if you go into like a haunted house, you expect to see ghosts or get murdered, or if you go into a cabin in the woods or things like that, or a graveyard, you don't expect to go to a place all decorated with tree and presents and lights, and you don't expect something bad to happen. So Christmas horror is essentially trying to trick you. But I also, at the same time that it does that, I personally, maybe it's just me because I'm so invested in horror films and I've been watching them so long. I also feel like it doesn't work. Like people will say like, "Oh, because it's tricking you, that's why it works." But I also feel like so many people have that expectation of Christmas that they're not afraid. Like it doesn't scare them to see a Christmas horror movie. They just think it's silly.
Hmm.
And maybe that's also just not just my horror movie love, but like a desensitization, which I think a lot of millennials and Gen Z feel. A lot of just we're desensitized to all horror matters, even in real life. So it's just like, okay,
Meh.
it's really hard to scare us.
Yeah. I mean, I really like like, some of those quotes that you just said. I think for me, with the exception of Krampus, which I love, it does make me feel uncomfortable. And frankly, it's for me, it's bad uncomfortable, not just the over the top brutality and the incest and the Nazis and all that. I mean, even a movie I love, Silent Night, Deadly Night. I probably won't watch that every Christmas. It'll probably be a couple of years before I watch that one again because while it was I think a really good movie, it's Christmas. You're making like you're corrupting, like you said, you're corrupting purity, and it's like I get it and I respect it. I don't like it.
It's twisted. Christmas horror is twisted.
Mm. What else do you have for us?
Well, aside from, the evolution of horror and kind of how we might view Christmas horror, if you were curious, I mean, we talked about my least favorite film. We talked about the one that I kind of think is the funniest, which is Elves. I do think it's funny, even though it's weird. Let's talk about my favorite ones, which I had a hard time narrowing down, but I'm going to go with like a top 5 here, which is,
Oh wow, 5. Wow.
yeah, top 5 out of 25.
5. She liked 5 of these goddamn movies. Okay, Sam, hit
Yeah.
me.
P2. I really liked P2, and that was also because as a woman, that movie kind of freaked me out. I am a lot more hesitant of parking garages now.
All
Better
right.
Watch Out, Better Watch Out was so good. I did not expect it was an unpredictable movie for me, and it's so well done. It's a good film. Better Watch Out. The Lodge, which was the most recent film on my list, made 2019. That one's a very psychological horror film, so it fucks with
Ooh.
your mind, and you're like, oh my god. Anna and the Apocalypse, which is well done and hilarious. Like in my description on my Instagram, I said that it was basically Glee meets Shaun of the Dead. So
Oh
it's perfect.
God.
No. It's amazing. Trust
Glee
me.
meets Shaun of the Dead.
Trust me. It's so good.
Bless
And
me.
last but not least, which we talked about in a separate episode, Black Christmas.
So good.
Yes. So those are my top 5 out of all of those films. In terms of like, did I find any scary? Like P2 got to me the most, but I'd say maybe The Lodge and Black Christmas are up there as the scariest ones on my list, which is funny because that's the oldest and the most recent film.
Hmm.
They bookend them. But yeah.
Completely agree with you with Black Christmas. I actually forgot about Black Christmas. That movie's just so good. I almost forget it's Christmas time. Even though like the time is very important to it, that movie's just so good.
Yeah. And we talked all about that in our Krampus episode back in December.
And Krampus is not in your top 5, speaking of the devil himself.
I liked Krampus, but it doesn't make it into the top 5 for me. And it's kind of like what I had mentioned in our Halloween episode, where I'm going, my ratings like of the top movies here are based off of a lot more of how they made me feel.
Okay.
That's my thing. Like, did they like put me on the edge of my seat? Did I yell a lot at the TV? Did I laugh a lot? Did I get scared? Did it stick with me in my mind after watching the movie? Like, top 5, yes, those for sure. I Better Watch Out. I was thinking about while I was falling asleep. Mark was trying to fall asleep next to me, and I'm like, from a legal standpoint, and he's like, go to bed, and I'm like, what, that kid? Would he have gotten life for that? I mean, he could have gotten different charges. He's like, go to bed. I'm like, but I have to know. I have to think about it.
The same thing happens to me with Ari. I start to bring out the legality part of it. She's like, stop it now, stop it. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I mean, when you
No,
think about it.
stop analyzing it. Stop trying to logic it out. And I'm like, but I have to.
Can't help it.
I want to poke holes in it.
Yeah, that's a big difference with me. Whenever any form of entertainment for me, the last thing I want to do is poke holes in it because I'm all about the story and the illusion. And
I
when
have that too, but
but when because my sister is the worst at it. My sister can anything she watches, she can find a plot hole. She can see, oh, like, these are two different, like these were shot at different times. She can just pinpoint everything, and I'm like, you just ruined my favorite movie. Cecilia, isn't this such a great scene? You can see the boom mic. What?
See, but I love doing that, but I can also still appreciate the movie at the same time. Like I can still like a movie and poke fun at it at the same time. I kind of remind myself of like I don't remember if you've seen the show Parks and Rec at all.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, there's that very nerdy moment with Ben Wyatt when Leslie comes in at one point and she asks him what he was doing, and he's like, "I just like rewatched like the entire season of like this particular show, just to look for plot holes," and then it goes, "Just as I suspected, airtight." Like, that level of nerd is how I feel sometimes with horror films.
That's devotion right there.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought, after watching all of these Christmas movies, all these horror Christmas movies, with all the shit you had to go through, were you in your mind piecing together your own Christmas horror?
No, not really. Like there were moments where I thought how like different scenes in those films could have maybe been made better, but as an overall film, I and it's not to say it didn't cross my mind. Like what would I do if I did a Christmas horror film? It's just again it goes back to that thought for me that Christmas horror doesn't really do it for me. Like I don't even though it's a twisted distortion on purity and innocence at the same time, I'm not afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of making a Christmas horror film, like to make it scary, I don't know. I feel like that would be a difficult task to do. Even the in my top 5 list, some of the films on my top 5, they're not even scary because they revolve around Christmas. It's just like taking place somewhere in the world or in the background. Like Christmas is happening around them, but it's not the center of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they're a Christmas horror film, it's not the focus, and therefore that's why it kind of separates them into scary for me. Is because it's this other thing going on.
Okay.
Like okay, for example, let me elaborate. P2. P2 is all about a girl who she is about to leave her office and go home for like Christmas Eve, Christmas time with her family. They're about to shut down the building for 3 days to like clean it, work on it, whatever. And it's a huge building. It's in a city. And she goes down to leave, and she's it's just like one thing after another is going wrong, and you can clearly see like how she's going to get stuck in this place. But she's in the parking garage of this giant building, and the parking garage is like 4 levels, and that's why it's called P2. P2 is one of the levels.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and basically, there's this guy who's been working as a security guard in the building who has been secretly stalking her, basically monitoring her on the security cameras, watching when she leaves, what's her patterns. And he's decided that because the building's going to be shutting down for 3 days, now's the perfect time to essentially kidnap her, hold her hostage, try and make her his. So it's all about her trying to escape him in this inescapable building. Um, so again, it points to it's Christmas time, but Christmas horror is not the center of the story here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what made it scary for me. So I don't think I would ever particularly film a Christmas horror film, but never say never, right?
I have to bring up bad memories for you.
Bad memories.
Versus Christmas horror or Thanksgiving horror. Which one
That's
are you?
not a bad memory for me. You might think it is. It's not.
Really?
All right. He's talking just so the audience knows about a movie I watched for Thanksgiving, which is the movie Thanksgiving, which is about a killer turkey, and
I
it's
can't deal. I
terrible
can't.
movie that is hilarious to me. That movie is hilarious. I would watch that movie over Red Christmas any day.
Oof.
The lines are so perfect in that film. Like they thought of cheesy lines for that turkey to say, like it's beautiful, like get stuffed.
I read your review and I was laughing, but I was also really annoyed. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I think I may have looked up a scene on YouTube. I forget. I blocked it out maybe. But I'm like, what? I just find it amazing that you were able to go through so much.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, so much crap.
I'm the type of person who it doesn't matter what level the horror film typically is, whether it's like shitty B horror, good horror, you name it. I'm pretty patient and will sit through the whole movie because of my thirst for knowledge. I just have to know. And like if it starts out good, of course you want to know the ending. If it starts out bad, most people will want to stop, but I'm like, no, I have to see this through. I need to know how this gets worse. Or like again, even at the shittiest point, I'm like, I still have to know the ending for the people. And because as a true, I feel like myself as, and maybe it's just because of, you know, partially the way women get treated in any particular fandom of any kind, the way they like things, but I also feel like I have to, as a horror geek or a horror fanatic, I'm like, I have to know the whole story. That way, if someone questions me or asks me about it, I know I
Mhm.
have an answer. I did see it. I saw it, all of it. And that, therefore, my opinion is based off of the fact that I actually fucking saw the whole thing. Like, because you don't want someone to go at you and then be like, oh, did you even watch it? Did you even see him through? Yes, I did. Did you?
Well, when
25
that
times.
well, when that fan comes up to me and says, "Well, Dylan, you didn't even fully watch Elves," I'll be like, "No, I didn't," and I'm gonna smile. And be like, "Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see all of it." 20 minutes in, I was like, "Nah, dog, I'm out."
That's the other part of me too. The other part of me is like, I am stronger than you. You didn't like if someone comes at me and they're like, oh, you didn't finish, I'm gonna be like, I am stronger than you. You are weak. You could not last, but I could. I'm not calling you that.
But Red
I
Christmas,
don't blame you. You
yet
stopped
to
after
skim.
the cat scene, right?
What's up?
You stopped like right after the cat scene.
Once again, not in a good place. And then that scene, just I love horror. And for our listeners, and Sam's here for the 100th time, I love horror. But when you do things that you're trying to make me uncomfortable, and that's not real horror for me. Like build suspense, create a horrible character, whether a monster or a human, give it a psychological edge. When you just do gross, disturbing things just to make me uncomfortable, that's not the sign of a good writer. It's not a sign of a good director. Rob
Hello,
Zombie.
Lindsay.
It's low. It's just bottom of the barrel, low.
And you know what? A lot of
Mm,
horror movies are trying to do that more and more, I feel, because they don't know what else to do anymore. They're like, you know, we've been making horror movies for decades, and it's like, how do we make it scarier? And they just think, oh, well, let's make it just more fucked up and gross, and that will do it. And that's also, again, part of why we end up desensitized, is we just see more shit. Like that goes with most Rob Zombie films. The Saw series, I feel
ugh.
like, is a good example of this.
Yes.
They're just like, what fucked up things can we put on screen?
But at the same time, do I am an optimist, and I do really view that horror right now is going through a renaissance period, because I feel like there's horror movies coming out today that are just unbelievable. Like they're putting so much into the story.
Yes.
It's not Christmas. I'm gonna go on a little side rant, but the Invisible Man,
I still need to see that.
you get a kick-ass story. You leave the theater like, I want to be invisible. I want this suit. I want to be invisible. You have women in like female empowerment in this movie because it's her asshole boyfriend is like a multi-billionaire, like Elon Musk, only evil,
Gotcha.
and no one believes her. Like, your boyfriend is like, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's not invisible, honey. And it's like, he's right there. And you see her overcome, and it's like, you hit me in the feels. You gave us a kick-ass female lead. You gave me a amazing retelling. It's not by the book at all. It's just the concept of an invisible person. That's what horror needs. It doesn't need to make me uncomfortable. Tell me a good story.
Yeah. And you know what? I think we're going to see more horror movies like that, especially because, like you said, in this Renaissance period, the other thing about it is you go back to the idea of, so horror is subjective, right? It's all about what our fears are, us as a society, us as a culture. And going off of just millennials in particular, we have seen a lot of shit since the year 2000 alone. Every
Yeah.
year, there's something horrible, tragedy in the world. So it's really freaking hard to pinpoint what we're afraid of. What are we? We're not afraid of anything anymore. Like we've seen the world burning. Like we're not afraid. So it's, as it goes through this Renaissance period, it's going to be about figuring out what does scare us. It's going to be these new levels of horror and fear. And I liked, I think her name's Carolyn, when she did the Into Darkness 80s horror documentary. It's the same girl who was from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. I
Oh.
forget her name, but I had mentioned this in my review of the movie. She talks about how she's excited to see the future of horror because she believes that the LGBTQ community alone will bring a new level to the horror film genre. And
Mm-hmm.
she's excited to see what that will be. And I'm like, that is so true. There's going to be so many other levels of horror to explore in the future. And hopefully, more directors out there, more people involved in the genre. Because, like, the other thing that gets frustrating to me is when people don't enter the genre and it's just like the same people and they start doing things like remakes and sequels and revivals. And I'm so over that. I am so over the same content being spit back out at me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have not seen it. It came out a couple years ago. Us?
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet either, but there's Us, there's Get Out,
Us,
there's
full black cast. And that was like,
yeah.
what? But this is hard. It's like, yeah, it's something different, guys. Like, nice. And apparently it was wicked, wicked good. Like, it got awards, and I really want to see it.
Another some other really good horror movies that came out in recent years, of course, were Hereditary and Midsummer. Ari Aster is
I
amazing.
want to see Midsummer.
You haven't seen it?
No,
Oh,
so high on my list.
it's good. It's good. There's a lot of, I mean, based off of what you said of Invisible Man, I really feel like you'll get the movie. Hopefully you will, because a lot of men actually walked away from Midsummer not getting it. Versus all the females were like, I get it.
Okay, I'm down.
So good luck with that one. I'm not gonna tell you any more than that.
I'm gonna be watching this movie like so in tune. Like, all right, there's some deep meaning that I need to understand.
It's
Uh,
on Amazon Prime. I think
Ooh,
it's included. I don't think you have to rent it. I think it's included. So it's good. Watch it.
Amazon is always there for you, folks.
Yeah.
Amazon
And of
should be
course,
paying me.
Hereditary was really good, and it has Toni Collette. Yeah.
Toni Collette.
She's amazing. She did a great job in that film as well. The image of what she did to her head is forever burned into my mind. But then again, Ari Aster loves opening people's heads. There was someone on Tumblr who was like, they said it the best when they were describing Ari Aster. They were like, yes, I'm going to give you your female empowerment and your strong female leads. But first, I'm going to show you the inside of a human head. And you're like, okay, Ari Aster.
Okay. Okay, Inside of Heads. And I'm sorry, what was that?
What was what?
The movie.
Midsummer and Hereditary?
Okay, all right. Hereditary. That's the other one. Yeah, because Midsummer's already been on my list for a while, but
Oh my God. There's a scene in Hereditary. Wait, you haven't seen it?
I have not seen it.
Oh my God. Okay, there's a scene in that film, and I'm not the only one who reacted this way. This was everyone's reaction. But like, I'm not going to tell you what happens. I'm just going to tell you there's a scene that will immediately make you go, and just you're going to sit there in dead silence. Because that was my reaction, and everyone else pretty much felt the same fucking way. And that's not something I experience often with movies. For me to be like, oh my God.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yes.
Which one should I watch first?
Hereditary. Watch Hereditary first.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
think I only said it because I think it came out before. That one came out first, and then Midsummer came out 2018, 2019. Yeah. So we divulged completely off of Christmas horror here,
But we're still talking about horror. It's all
because how can we not?
Are you planning? I mean, 11 months from now, it's going to be Christmas again. You can't stop it. How many of these movies do you think you'll want to rewatch? Not for the people. It is not for the people. It is for you. It is for Sam. How many do you want to put in and be like, have some hot cocoa, have the Christmas tree on, get in the vibe and be like, I want to watch this.
I don't think I really sit down with hot cocoa and a Christmas vibe to a Christmas horror film, but like, there's not really any in particular that I think I mean, even my top 5, I love them, but I'm not going to be big on rewatching them. I think in those particular situations, it would be like I'd be rewatching it simply because I'm subjecting somebody else in the room to it and I'm waiting for their reactions. Like Elves. Like that's something I would do. I would put on Elves with a cup of cocoa and just sit and watch somebody else react to the film. But otherwise,
that's heartless.
because like they're
That's
very
cold, Sam.
will watch over and over again. Normally after like a horror film, like I've seen it once, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I've seen it. There's only like a few really good ones out there that I'll rewatch just for the hell of it. But otherwise, I think I'll be looking for new Christmas horror films to watch because there were some on my list that I didn't hit this year in order to fit into the 25 days. And who knows, maybe we'll have a new one actually come out this next year. We'll have to see how it plays out.
This is now your life's mission, just like all the Christmas horror. Like, come
Not
to
even
me.
the Christmas horror. It's like I've been watching horror movies since I was a little kid, and as I delved more into watching horror movies again, I started calling it on my Instagram my horror movie quest to watch all the films I've never seen. So that's the other reason I don't rewatch them is because I'm more excited to see something I've never seen before than rewatch a horror movie I've already seen.
I mean, yes, I'm always about exploration, but I am very nostalgic, and and I know what I like, and sometimes it's the Emperor's New Groove meme. When it hits it just right.
That's how I am more with TV shows. There are some I'll rewatch, but there are definitely TV shows that I just keep rewatching over and over again. But then with horror movies, I love the horror genre, but it's just so vast and like it's kind of
Yes, good word, vast.
The way a book lover looks at all the books in the library and wonders like, will I be able to read you all before I die? That's how I feel about horror movies. I'm like, can I watch you all before I die? So I'm always on to a new one.
Okay. Yeah, Ariana gets very annoyed with me because I'll watch The Office over and over and over, and she'll be like, "You watched this episode last week." I'm like, I don't care. It's so good.
Same.
It's so good. It's so good.
Mark will tell me, like, I've been rewatching Buffy recently and Gilmore Girls again. I know those are like two totally different shows, but I rewatched been watching them, and like I'll be sitting there and I'm like, I'll go to bed after this episode. It'll be like 3 in the morning. He goes, you know what's gonna happen. You've seen it 100 times, you know. I'm like, but I want to see it again. Because I know it's good. I want to see it again.
It brings up just that feel of just either whether it's awesomeness or just it helps you relax, helps you laugh. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that comfort of like, you know what's gonna happen. And like, and especially when it was a really good, well done show, just seeing those really good moments over and over again, you're like, yeah,
Yes.
so well done every time. Since 1996, this has been so well done.
Why are you laughing so hard at this joke? You watch this episode like every other day. I know, but it's so good. My life.
Yeah, quote it forever. That's how I feel about Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I will never stop quoting that film ever till the day I die.
I need to rewatch it. I watched it when I was very, very young, and a lot of the humor went over my head. Also, another victim of overhype, in my opinion.
I loved it. In high school, my group of friends and I became very obsessed with Monty Python movies and things, and it affected some of our schoolwork. In particular, they're gonna hate me for saying this, especially my best friend listens to this podcast. We had to do a project in English where we had to all film our own rendition of like a piece of Macbeth.
Yep.
And ours was heavily Monty Python inspired. And it is just golden work of art, if you ask me. It like my teacher at the time played everyone else's videos first and then saved ours for last. And then before she hit play, she looked at the whole class and went, I'm playing this merely for entertainment purposes. And the second she hit play, all you heard was spam, 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 spam.
Is this on YouTube?
Yes, but I'm not going to tell you where.
Sam.
I will tell you after we're done filming this episode, but I'm not going to put it on the podcast for all to see. No, I don't need the whole world going to find it.
One, like you said, you do it for the fans. Do it for the fans right now. Hey,
oh my God.
I'm trying to get you monetized. I'm trying to get you paid, and this is how
well,
you.
it's on my account. It's like on a really old YouTube account because this has been on YouTube. Gonna take myself a little bit here, but this has probably been on YouTube for 11 years, 12 years, maybe. Yeah, it's called Macbeth Reborn. If you type that into Google, it should be one of the first to come up.
Find it. Find it now.
It has nothing to do with Christmas, though. By the way, the thing that we talk so much about.
I thought we got a lot of Christmas talking.
We did. And you know what? There's really, to be fair, there's only so much you can say about Christmas horror unless you start talking about every movie individually.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to go over one more that
on my particular list, I think if there was one more movie I wanted to talk about at all, it might be Deadly Games, which that should be in my top 5, honestly, like my top 5, 6. Also known as like Pierre Noël. It's a French Christmas horror film. It's actually the original Home Alone. It was
what?
Yeah, it's the original Home Alone. I didn't know that. It came out 1 year before the Home Alone that we all grew up with in America. And the crazy thing about it is like the guy who who filmed the movie, tried to sue them for stealing his idea, and nothing ever came of it. And then it's even more shitty because then Deadly Games didn't become available in America until like the early 2000s. That's so crazy to me.
What?
Yeah.
How like, can you not open with this? Wait, Home Alone is ripped off?
Yeah, Home Alone is ripped off of a French Christmas horror film, and it's even better than ours. And a lot of people who have seen it say
Sam, whoa, ho, hey, ho, ho,
it's better.
ho,
It's
ho,
better.
ho.
Here, I'm gonna go into it. His name is Thomas. All right, this little kid is named Thomas, and he is like, imagine little kid Batman almost. Imagine a little French Batman. All right, he's a little computer genius. He's a rich kid. He's living in a giant mansion.
Yes, his
He
name is Kevin McAllister.
he's oh my god, he's so much fucking smarter than Kevin McAllister. Like Kevin's smart, but this kid is like, I fucking have all this technology and rewired my mansion to create these ridiculous booby traps smart. And like he the creepy part of the film, it's also darker than the Home Alone we all love and know, because the burglar who comes after him is a, like, they never say it outright, but I'm pretty sure that it's a pedophile,
Of course it
and that's why
is.
he's trying to get this kid. And he's very creepy. His face, his demeanor, the guy who comes after him dressed like Santa is twisted, creepy. I did not like him at all. He makes me so uncomfortable. But like Thomas is amazing. He's a genius little kid, and he's funny too. And the movie's super sweet. And like, oh my god, the shit Thomas goes through, because he's not just home by himself in this mansion. He has his grandfather who's blind and like needs insulin. And so he's trying to protect his grandfather and keep him alive while trying to avoid this pedophile by himself. And there's even some really funny scenes in the film. Like there's this just he dresses up like Rambo, and he's got this funny montage where, like, because his dog died because the guy killed his dog, and he's like going through the halls carrying his dog in slow motion while this song plays about becoming a man. And he like buries his dog in the basement, and he like grabs the handful of dirt and he clenches his fist towards the sky in slow motion. And you're like, it's it's a good film. Deadly Games, people, please watch it.
I don't know what I just heard. Oh my god. How did you not open with that one?
I don't know. Because there's
Well,
25 movies I watched. Like they're, you know, that should be in my top 5 though. It's right up there.
I mean, many family members, obviously older than me, who were around when I was a little kid, cannot watch Home Alone because I had it on repeat 365 days. I watched that movie for everything. I kind of remember, but yeah, like my parents were like, no.
Us American kids, like we were gypped. We didn't know that there was a French kid named Thomas who did it a year ago before.
Deadly Games, you said, right?
Deadly Games, also known as Pierre Noel 365 or something like that. If you go to my Instagram, you will see the post. But Deadly Games is what it's known by in
A
America.
Dark Home Alone. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
it's good. You know what? And what's interesting about my list too, before we continue onward, is like my overall 25 horror movies. I When I listed them out, I wrote down the year of each film because I organized them from past to present, and also I wrote down like their percentage ratings. So like how each film is rated either on like Rotten Tomatoes or Google or IMDb or whatever.
mhm.
And what's interesting is like the lowest rated films on my list and the highest rated films on my list, they just didn't match up for me. Like I was like, this, they don't even hit the lowest or highest for me. And again, that goes back into horror is subjective. It's different for everybody. So yeah,
Okay.
very interesting how that plays out. Like Rare Exports, which is a Finnish Christmas horror film, that's the highest rated film on my list. It's got a 90% approval rating.
Hot
I
damn.
don't care for it that much. It's okay. It's
All
not
right.
that good. It
Okay.
doesn't need that much hype. The lowest rated would be, let's see here.
Elves.
No, Elves isn't the lowest rated actually. I have Don't Open Till Christmas, which is a UK Christmas horror film, coming in at 13%. To All a Good Night, 1980 at 17%. And those are my two lowest films. Which yeah, they were pretty freaking shitty. But goddamn, Red Christmas should have been up there. Or I should say down there.
Um. Oh, good. I really can't get over Deadly Games. Like, I'm excited for next Christmas already. Like, Deadly Games is
You need
happening.
to wait till Christmas for that one. Watch that one whenever. You will like it.
I think I may have to.
Yeah.
A few weeks. But before that, let's might as well tell them this isn't the only holiday special you'll be getting.
That's right.
Me and Sam are actually going to be doing two more fun-filled holidays of horror madness. Saint No, I'm sorry. Yep, St. Valentine's Day and St.
St.
Patrick's Day.
Valentine's Day.
Yes, St. Valentine's Day or Valentine's Day, the day of roses, the day of love, the day of Hallmark.
Yes, we're gonna talk about Valentine's Day horror. We're gonna be talking about St. Patty's Day horror in the future. Well, it's later on in the summer. I think we're gonna do a summer special. And who knows when October rolls around, what else we'll come up with. But holiday horror is gonna be a special feature.
What to watch during Halloween? What to watch? What to watch?
Gee, I wonder. But we're gonna have to think of new things because we already talked about all the Halloween movies. Because that's what I also did in 2020 is I binge watched every single Halloween movie.
I'm jealous of the journey you just went on.
I'm a binge watching Olympic athlete. I'm competing in triathlons over here. Y'all watch one movie, I watch 25. Get on my level.
I don't think like speaking just for me, I don't want to be on your level. You take the gold, hun. It's yours.
You're okay being bronze.
I'm okay in the loser's corner with the white flag, and I'm just smiling like.
Or you don't even have to be in the loser's corner. You could just be in the audience with the popcorn, like, yay! Your foam finger.
um, I know we have to talk about it, but we have a general idea of what we'll be watching for Valentine's Day and St. Patty's Day, right?
Yes, yes, we do. Do we want to leave it as a surprise for the people, or are we giving them a little taste of that right now?
I I could be dead wrong, and I probably am, but I think Valentine's Day it's kind of easy to figure out. There's not many Valentine's Day horror movies out there.
Yeah, that's true. I tried researching for more, and I had a hard time finding more within that genre. So, look, I found enough to last me through February, though.
Hmm. Which is weird because I for some reason feel like there should be more Valentine's Day horror than Christmas horror. Because Valentine's Day you can always play off of its relationships. And you
Yeah.
could
I
and
mean, you Valentine's Day in itself, sure, like you play off the relationships, but then again, the specific holiday itself with all the imagery it brings up of pink and red hearts everywhere and candy, it's not tremendously scary. Same thing with Christmas horror. I'd
Hearts
say
and Blood.
it's even less scary than Christmas horror. So, and you don't need Valentine's Day to do a romantic horror film because love is one of the driving factors in both real and fictional murders. So, which I'm sure you'll discuss maybe somewhere in your true crime section of.
Oh, we have so much coming for you with true crime with Sammy, not Sam. Yeah, and then with St. Patrick's Day, everyone immediately, anyone who knows horror movies has that one movie in mind. I'm not doing all of them. Screw you all. I'm in the loser's corner. I'm up doing popcorn. I'm not watching all of them. I won't. You have this girl to do it for you.
Yes, I will.
Is that part of what you're doing on your page on Instagram? Are you going to be watching through all the leprechauns?
Yeah, so when March rolls around, I've already seen some of them because I watched them as a child, but when I do go through it again, I'm going to watch them from first to last. This will be the first 3 weeks of March. Then I'll start going into regular Irish horror films the last 2 weeks. So that's my current plan for my horror movie quest, which, if anyone's curious, I do post a new horror review every Wednesday for that. So that all those will be right down the middle of my page. You can always find them.
Sweet.
That's, yeah.
So definitely check out Sam on her page. She's going to be watching all of these movies for you, the people.
And because I'm obsessed, I'm a nerd.
And my fabulous producer just informed me that Groundhog Day is coming up, which means there's another 2 movies for you people to watch. Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. Sam, have you watched these movies?
I have not.
Okay, so
Maybe there'll be a bonus feature on my page.
this is a spoiler-free zone then. Obviously we're not going to review them because me and Ari did a review of both these movies in season 1. Go check out that video. But this Groundhog Day, celebrate the day of Groundhog Day because I know we all do. Watch Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You because so good. It's just one of those things where it's such a simple concept, but they just smash it out of the park. And it's just so much fun.
Yeah, where can I watch it?
Well, I have the Blu-rays, but you're not my neighbor.
Basically, find a streaming service.
It's got to be on one of them.
Yeah, gotta be. My guess is I usually check Amazon Prime first because they have the pretty great selection. Plus, you can also get the Shutter add-on with Amazon Prime. And I know there's some of you out there groaning that I'm giving my money to Jeff Bezos. But listen, I don't have the time to buy all these DVDs and VHSs. And this is the one streaming service that has the widest selection of horror films that I can easily access them. Netflix has a shit horror section, and so does Hulu. It is what it is, people.
Unless you buy them like me. Buy them.
I don't have the money to be buying a ton of DVDs. I don't even have the space either because I have a small New York City apartment.
Well, if you take down all of those pictures behind you, I mean, that's just prime Blu-ray space right there.
Yeah, let me just put a bunch of movies in place of my art here.
And the art is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Sam, as we wrap up, any last words on Christmas horror, lasting impacts, anything for us?
The other things I might mention here would be I find it fascinating that through the decades of Christmas horror, there's pretty much none in the 90s. There's one Christmas horror movie in the 90s. One. And it's like a funny, campy film. That one's Jack Frost. Has very like Evil Dead
Yeah.
filmed. I was fascinated by that. I was like, I can't believe there's no 90s ones. And then the other thing is I'm excited to see potentially how Christmas horror evolves if it continues at all in any way, if people do make more. Because the most has been happening in the last 15 years. So we'll have to see if they continue to make more.
I think they will, especially with, I'm sorry I'm a broken record, but when I love a franchise, I do love it. You're getting more with Krampus. I feel like that was just too good. It hit it so well.
Surprised. There was 2 or 3 Krampus films on my list, so I would not be surprised if they made more Krampus.
In any of those Krampus movies, did Krampus ever fight Santa?
Yes.
Yes.
But very briefly, because there ends up being a twist. Do you want me to tell you?
Tell me which movie.
It was the Christmas Horror Story, the anthology film.
That one I actually will probably watch next year, so don't tell me.
Yeah, that one's got a bunch of different Christmas horror stories wrapped up into one. And then also, the one everyone knows is Holiday 2016, which is, I thought like it was one consistent film, but Holiday is another anthology film that has a horror story for every holiday. That one was a really interesting one. The Christmas horror story in Holiday has Seth Green.
There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Sam, where can the good people find you?
They can find me at Sam So Spooky on Instagram.
Um, and for us, follow us on King Po Myers. Follow me at KPM Delan. Come to me with your horror questions. Come to me with your horror books. I mean, right now, Sam is getting ready to read all the Stephen King books with me, and I'm very excited about her journey. Message her and pressure her to read Stephen King books with me, please.
I have yet to fully get on the Stephen King train because A, the amount of money I know I will end up spending, and B, all the movies I still plan to watch. So it's like being torn between, do I watch a movie or do I read a book?
One last question before we go. Does that take anything away from you? I mean, can you watch the movie and then read the book and be perfectly fine? Or do you like watching them in a particular order? I'm sorry. Do you like to read and watch and read? Does it matter?
Um, the order doesn't particularly matter. However, I do always like to watch or read whatever came first and then see the thing that they made after just to see what changed
Mm-hmm.
or how they interpreted it. Um, Otherwise, I typically love both because, again, I have a thirst for knowledge and I must know all the things. So I like being able to say, oh, like, you know, some people are like, oh, are you the movie or oh, are you the book? I'm both. I'm all things of this particular thing. I have consumed all media for it. I have Googled it. I have read articles. I've gone into the hashtags. I have an unhealthy obsession.
See, Sam gives me shit behind the scenes, but Sam just showed her inner Tywin Lannister, that thirst for power and knowledge and
No,
that
that's not
thirst to
Tywin.
know.
No, it's not Tywin. I'm a Ravenclaw. Okay, you're Slytherin. I'm Ravenclaw. We're intellectuals. We gather knowledge. This is why I'm Tyrion. I am Tyrion to you, sir. I'm the smartest person around who's strategizing and plotting.
What was it that Tywin said? You are an ill-made, spiteful little creature, full of envy, lust, and no cunning. Shout out to Charles Dance. Good Lord, that man. That man. Sam, thank you so much for doing it for the people.
Thank you
Just
for giving me a space to talk even more about that journey I took amidst a larger journey.
I was not able to join her in this, but I'm getting better, and I believe I'll be able to do some Valentine's Day and one Leprechaun movie. The first one, I think Jennifer Aniston is. I think it's her first film ever.
Yeah, I think it was her debut.
What'd you debut in? Shut up.
What?
No. Like talking with Jennifer Aniston. Like, what was your debut film, Jennifer?
Oh
Don't talk
yeah.
to me. Don't talk to me. I like Leprechaun 1. I thought it was fun. But I haven't watched it in like 15 years, so I may be in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, I have not watched it in about as long, 15, 20 years maybe.
Yeah. I watched
I
it when I was
remember.
really, really young. Could have been in elementary school at the time. Yeah.
Oh, I was definitely in elementary school. I had definitely, it was around the time I was watching movies that I should not be watching.
Just a wonderful time. Sam, thank you again for being with us. Please follow us on our handles, as it were, and get ready for some Valentine's Day, some Groundhog Day, some Valentine's Day, and months away, but some summer horror. I cannot wait. Thank you all. See you next time.
Bye.